Taray, oh. Isang hi naman dyan.
I am Kyle Lonson.
And I'm Pola, Lardizabal.
And we are here to teach you about null hypothesis.
What is null hypothesis? If you trace back the history of science, the null hypothesis is always the accepted fact. Simple examples of null hypothesis that are generally accepted as being true are: number 1, DNA is shaped like a double helix. Number 2, there are 8 planets in the solar system, excluding Pluto. Number 3, taking Vioxx can increase the risk of heart problems, a drug now taken off the market.
How do I state the null hypothesis? You won't be required to actually perform a real-life experiment or survey in elementary statistics, or even dispute the fact like Pluto is a planet. So you'll be given word problems from real-life situations. You'll need to figure out what your hypothesis is from the problem. This can be a little trickier than just figuring out what the accepted fact is. With the word problems, you are looking to find a fact that is nullifiable. Example, something you can reject.
Hypothesis testing example number 1. A principal at a certain school claims that the students in his school are above average intelligence. A random sample of 30 students' IQ scores have a mean score of 112. Is there sufficient evidence to support the principal's claim? The mean population IQ is 100 with a confidence level of 95% and standard deviation of 15. So, let's try to answer this.
Step 1. State the null and the alternative. Remember that you must find first the null before the alternative because the sign of the null is the opposite of the alternative sign. But it is not always like that. Example, this problem has the null of m or mean equals 100. You expect that the alternative is mean is not equal to 100, but you're wrong. The problem states that the students have above average IQ scores. Therefore, the alternative will be mean is greater than 100. Step 2. Identify the elements that needed to solve the computation. M is the mean. The mean of this example is 100. O is the standard deviation. The standard deviation of this example is 15. N is the sample space. The sample space of this problem is 30. X is random sample. The random sample of this example is 112.5. The CL is the confidence level. The CF of this example is 95%. After we identify the said elements, we need to find its Z-score. Look again at the alternative. The sign of it is greater than, so it means that this is a one-tailed test. We have a confidence level of 95%. So the 5% left is our basis to find the Z-score. Convert the 5% into decimal. The answer is 0.05. After we converted, look at the sample space. We have 30 samples, so it means that we must look at the column of large at the degree of freedom in the t-table. The intersection of the row of large, which is this one, and the column of 0.05 is the Z-score, which is 2.57. Step 3. Computation. This is the formula. Z is equals to random sample minus mean divided by standard deviation divided by the square root of n. So, dito na tayo, isa-substitute na natin yung sa formula at saka yung nakuha nating elements sa step 2. Random sample, ang random sample natin is 112.5. So, i-place natin siya dito. Para i-substitute natin yung random sample as 112.5 minus mean. So, ang mean natin na nakuha natin sa step 2 is 100. So, i-substitute natin. 112 minus 5 divided by standard deviation. Ang standard deviation natin is 15. Nakuha sa step 2 natin. I-divide mo yun sa square root of 30, which is yung sample space. Yan. So, I will show you how to calculate a formula like this in the calculator. So, ayun. Ipapakita ko sa inyo kung paano i-compute itong formula na to sa calculator. So, Z is equals to 112.5 minus 100. I-insert natin siya sa calculator. Open parentheses, mas itype yung 112.5 minus 100, close parentheses, divided by, open parentheses ulit, 15 divided by the square root of 30. Square root of 30, then close parentheses, tsaka tayo mag-equals. So, ang sagot is 4.56. Step 4. Decision. In this step, we will decide if the null is accepted or rejected. The computed value is the answer in this step 3, which is 4.56. And the critical value is the z-score na nakuha natin sa step 2, which is 1.65. 4.56 is greater than 1.65. Rejected HO. Remember that if the computed value is less than the critical, then the HO or null is accepted. But if the computed value is greater than the critical, then the null is rejected. Step 5. Draw a curve to help you visualize the problem. So, dito sa step na to, mag-drawing tayo ng curve. Tapos, parang ang pagbabasihan natin, nung isi-shade nating part is the alternative. Yung sign ng alternative is greater than, di ba? So, ang isi-shade natin na parte is yung right side. Yun yung isi-shade natin na parte. Then, ang i-label natin is yung z-score na nakuha natin sa step 2, which is 1.65. Ang significance level natin is 0.05. Since sa problem na to is one-tailed test lang tayo, 95% ang confidence level natin. I-convert natin siya into decimal, which is 0.05. Step 6. Conclusion. This is the step where we conclude. We need to find the gist of the example or the problem, then apply our answer. So, ang conclusion ko dito sa step 6 is, therefore, the intelligence of the students in their principal school are greater than average.
Hypothesis testing example number 2. Blood glucose levels for obese patients have a mean of 100 with a standard deviation of 15. A researcher thinks that a diet high in raw cornstarch will have a positive or negative effect on blood glucose levels. A sample of 30 patients who have tried the raw cornstarch diet have a mean glucose level of 140, with a confidence level of 90%. Thus, the hypothesis that the raw cornstarch had an effect. Let's try to answer this.
In step 1, we will need to find for the null hypothesis, the alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis is also the opposite sign of the null hypothesis, and our null hypothesis is 100, and for the sign is equal and not equal. In step 2, we need to find the mean, the standard deviation, N is the sample size, the CL is the percentage, the random example, and last, we must find the T or Z score. In step 3, we have the formula. Random sample minus mean divided by standard deviation divided by square root of sample size. So, after natin malaman yung formula natin, kailangan na natin i-substitute dito sa step 2 ng mga nakuha natin na elements. So, yung random sample is 140. So, kailangan natin siyang ilagay dito minus mean. So, mean natin is 100. Divided by standard deviation, which is 15. Divided by square root of 30. So, yung sagot dito is 14.6. Para sa step 4 natin, dito natin malalaman kung accept or reject yung null natin. For example, 14.6 which is computed value. And yung 1.65 is nakuha natin dito sa ating Z table, which is 1.65. So, ang kinalabasan is reject yung null hypothesis. Para naman sa step 5 natin, kailangan natin gumawa ng graph, which is nagpa-present mismo ng mismo problem natin. And kung napapansin nyo, yung 1.65 is kinuha ko yan dito sa ating z-score. So, ang kinalabasan niya is both and tail. Para naman sa step 6 natin, ito yung step na kailangan natin mag-conclude or we need to find the gist of the example or the problem, then apply our answer. Ding! And that's for our video lesson for today. God bless everyone!